Last week we did a video on the top 10 greatest poker moments of the last decade, and in this week we're looking at the opposite side of the coin. What is up guys, Maxi from Poker Bounty bringing you today the top 10 worst poker moments of the last decade. Number 1. We all know on April 11, 2011, the poker world changed forever. The US Department of Justice finally took its stand on online poker and indicted PokerStars, Full Tilt Poker, and Absolute Poker. Almost everyone has known or heard about the story of Black Friday, so I won't go much into it. But due to Black Friday, a series of events were set in motion which affected the poker world for a long time. We are still feeling the ramifications of those decisions today, with many poker pros living abroad to play their trade. It's affected everyone from the sites themselves, to the players, to the media surrounding the online poker boom. Many poker pros quit the game completely. Black Friday was disastrous for poker players who had the money on Full Tilt Poker. Instead of instantly getting their balances back like PokerStars players, they had to endure nearly 3.5 years before getting a check in their mail. Now it's hard to know where to point the blame in case of private poker company like Full Tilt, where the management structure was always a bit of a mystery, but the way Howard Lederer and CEO Ray Bitar handled the situation was just plain awful. Instead of constant updates about the situation, the silence was deafening. A big part of playing with the pros on Full Tilt Poker is that players thought they had some security, that their money was in good hands with guys like Lederer, Chris Ferguson, and Full Ivy putting their faces all over the site. It quickly became clear that no one wanted to take responsibility for what happened. It was a very bad situation, but a bit of communication with thousands of players who had their balances stuck on Full Tilt would have helped immensely. Number 2. Annie Duke was an outspoken poker pro and is also the sister of Full Tilt Poker's disgraced executive and poker player Howard Lederer. In 2011, shortly after Black Friday, she implemented a self-ban from the game of poker, but it wasn't intentional. Annie Duke and former WSOP commish Jeffrey Pollack surprised many in 2011 right after Black Friday by announcing the Epic Poker Tour, which shared some similarities to the PGA with the idea of having both pros and amateurs on the tour. The new league was intended to cater only to a select group of poker pros. At the end of the first season, Duke promised a $1 million free roll, but the league went bankrupt before it could happen. Annie Duke took a 6-figure salary for her role with the league, but just after 3 $20,000 buy-in events, the Epic Poker League went bust and was cancelled. Epic Poker filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on February 29, 2012 with millions in debt. Not great considering it was announced in the summer of 2011. And talking about that $1 million free roll at the end of the season, well, that never happened. Poker pros who took part in the Epic League in order to get some equity in that $1 million free roll were understandably upset. For failing to deliver on her $1 million free roll promise and still taking a paycheck, the poker community turned on Annie Duke. Because of that, she's no longer working or playing in the poker industry and instead finding a new career as an author and motivational speaker. Number 3. There are plenty of regrettable stories that came out of Black Friday and the subsequent fall of Full Tilt Poker, but Erick Lindgren was one of the most publicized. Flashback to 2006 to 2009 for a moment, and Erick Lindgren was one of the key faces of Team Full Tilt. He was winning poker tournaments, massive golf prop bets, and putting down some serious cash on sports betting. Then, it all came crashing down. Black Friday pulled out the legs from Lindgren's revenue stream, and E-Dog was left with a mountain of debt. Fellow poker pro and sports bettor Haralabos Voulgaris came out and publicly claimed that Erick Lindgren owed him 6 figures for years and had failed to pay the debt in full. Lindgren's debt across poker and sportsbook got high as $10 million at one point, and although he claimed to have paid back as many as he could, his name became synonymous with bad debt in poker circles. Despite the stint in rehab and help from those left in the game willing to extend a hand, in 2015, Erick Lindgren was slapped with a lawsuit from PokerStars, who had bought out, or rather inherited, his $2.5 million debt from Full Tilt, and Lindgren filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Number 4. High Stakes Poker is considered by many as the greatest poker show ever. The mixture of high-stakes pros and commentator Gabe Kaplan and unprecedented stakes was close to perfection. If you made a good play on high-stakes poker like Tom Dwan, for instance, then you became an instant legend. It was particularly painful when high-stakes poker was cancelled in 2011. While the show's success was undeniable throughout its first 6 seasons on air, the 7th season brought many unwelcome changes, alienating the fan base. Aside from dismissing the game's best poker commentator Gabe Kaplan, high-stakes poker became far less interesting in its final season because of the different line of players. Gone were the household names like Phil Ivey, Patrick Antonius, and Tom Dwan, and to be replaced with rich businessmen like Phil Ruffin, Robert Croak, and Bill Perkins. While six-figure pots weren't uncommon, much of the excitement of watching the highest levels of poker being played was simply missing. It wasn't just high-stakes poker that went away, however. The iconic Poker After Dark was also cancelled the same year, and the Full Tilt Poker $1 Million Cash Game also went away. The main reason for the cancellation of all these shows was Black Friday, as the funding for all the poker TV shows dried up with it. Even late-night poker in the UK came to an end. Number 5. If there's one key issue that tends to sap tournaments of entertainment value for spectators and enjoyment for players, it's unnecessary tanking. You might think that the issue would be resigned to seniors tournaments, but it's actually a tactic employed quite often by young players. The fact that there are players who are utilizing tanking simply to tilt their opponents is abhorrent. Tom Dwan recently in an interview also mentioned that people have taken the staring at you to a whole new level, taking a long time every hand. Number 6. Gus Hansen has always been famous for his crazy swings. After having won 4 WPTs in a year and made 6 final tables, amassing over $11 million, the Great Dane has inspired poker players from around the world with his trademark loose aggressive style. But then the Danish player hit rock bottom in 2014. The old school Hansen didn't bother with tracking software where he played the biggest games in the world, and it hurt him badly. His losses on Full Tilt Poker surpassed $20 million in September of 2014, losing as much as $600,000 alone in a week. However, Gus Hansen has made a comeback to high-stakes poker both live and online a few years later, as we can see from his short Instagram videos where he shows us glimpses of his poker session in Bobby's room. Many professional poker players might have gone broke, but few with quite the same laid-back attitude as the Great Dane. Number 7. In 2015, with Full Tilt and Ultimate Bet gone, PokerStars was the lone remaining major online poker site in the world. Pros, recreational players, and just about everyone who played online poker at the time played at PokerStars except for the American players who couldn't. PokerStars decided it needed to make some changes to the site to cater more to the recreational players. It's one thing to dramatically change your business model, it's another thing to essentially backdoor changes without informing your most loyal customers. The company made the decision to remove the longtime Supernova Elite Rewards program that financially benefited the pros who put in high volume on the poker site and replaced it with a loyalty system that benefited recreational players instead. In doing so, PokerStars received huge negative publicity from angry poker pros. Ike Caxton in 2016 was the first PokerStars team pro to publicly express disdain for the changes and left the company. He then switched over to Party Poker as a sponsored pro. In the following years, PokerStars would cut ties with many of his other popular pros such as Vanessa Selbst, Jason Mercier, Elke Grospellier, Barry Greenstein, and even Daniel Negreanu, who was the face of the site for more than 10 years. Number 8. There have been several incidents over the course of the last decade that have collectively been a black eye for the poker industry. Usually cheaters in poker get caught, but in these 2 rare cases, the cheaters prospered. These 2 were Venezuelan Ivan Fritz, audacious angle shoot in 2011, and EPT San Remo winner Constant Reichenberg, overselling his action in 2013. Fritz's infamous play took place in the 2011 EPT Grand Final. Fritz announced raise during the hand but threw in a call. He then mumbled, "No, sorry, I meant call." The official was called over because Fritz has allegedly been doing this for quite some time. Eventually, Janat finally falls into the trap and makes the call. Of course, Fritz goes on to win the tournament for 1.5 million euros. Meanwhile, Constant Reichenberg's crime was much simpler. He oversold his action, meaning he won EPT San Remo for 1.5 million euros and actually owed people money because of it. Number 9. Perhaps the biggest fear of brand new poker players is that they're playing unfair games. These players are already at a disadvantage to experienced players, so the idea of playing a game that's actually unbeatable is terrifying. The re-emergence of superhuman poker bots in the online ecosystem now appears to be a matter of when, not if. It began in 2015 with Cepheus, a poker bot developed by scientists at the University of Alberta in Canada. Cepheus was admirable, having efficiently solved the equation that is heads-up no-limit hold'em. A few years later, researchers at the Carnegie Mellon University in Pennsylvania introduced Claudico, a bot designed to beat heads-up no-limit hold'em. Claudico narrowly lost to a team of the world's best human poker pros, but his younger brother, Liberatus, destroyed the same opponents in January of 2017. Now Pluribus is here, and he was groomed to be the best and brightest poker bot ever conceived. capable of taking down a 6-max table full of pros. Also, recreational players don't like heads-up displays, advanced seating scripts, and add-ons over the last 5 years. Now you can debate the merit of heads-up displays and seating scripts, but the fact remains the new players are getting chewed up faster than ever before. Those add-ons have led to a paradigm shift in the major poker online sites, who are now adapting the anonymous tables and quick seat functions in an effort to protect the fish on their site. Number 10. 3 months prior to 2019's end, the first major cheating scandal in a decade was discovered. Mike Postle, a low-stakes grinder at Stone's Gambling Hall in Northern California, was accused of cheating during the Stone's live stream cash game show. The scandal started at the end of September when Veronica Brill, a former employee of the Stone's Gambling Hall in Sacramento, took to Twitter and posted several tweets about the possible cheating going on at live events. Joey Ingram went on to investigate various Stone's live poker streams on his YouTube channel, and backing this up, Doug Polk also took to his account on YouTube to further analyze the allegations. The first reaction of Stone's Gambling Hall was to wave the issue aside, as it announced that the company already carried out investigation into the matter and there was no evidence that pointed to any form of cheating at any of its events. While appearing in Mike Mattisau's podcast, Mike Parcel insisted that he was innocent and that the numbers that people were using on his winnings were simply off. Many have speculated that Mike Parcel had received information about the whole cards of his opponents during the cash games, which was why he was able to win so much at such a rate. Both Parcel and Stone's Gambling Hall denied the allegation. However, they are being now sued for a sum of $10 million in class action lawsuit by Parcel's opponents and their counsel. So those were the top 10 worst poker moments of the last decade. If you like this video, leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.